Hi, you're welcome to today's episode of the Tech Talk Show with me, Kazim. Today on the Tech Talk Show, we're going to be talking adoption trends and growth of Microsoft 365. And joining me on the episode today is John J. Hi, John. Hi, Jay.
Kazim, it's good to speak with you.
Yes. So first, we're going to start things off with an introduction. So, Jay, I'm going to let you start with introducing yourself. So would you like to give a brief, please?
Of course. Good morning from Washington, D.C., or good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jay Leask. I am a principal solutions engineer at AvePoint Public Sector. We're a small ISV, well, a large ISV, I suppose, so providing governance and data protection support for the Microsoft stack. Clearly focused on the cloud, but we also support on-prem. I've been in information technology for 22 years, if I've got my numbers right. I went to college for it at one point. Computer science was actually my focus, but even in college, I worked full-time as an IT help desk and then as a programmer for a web development company, et cetera. So I've spent a lot of time doing a lot of different things in information technology. Most recently, focused on the Microsoft 365 stack, providing assistance to customers to help understand what have they purchased, what can it provide to them, and where their use cases may require additional third-party support.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, Jay. So the topic today is around Microsoft 365 adoption, but I would like us to start things off with talking a little bit about digital transformation now. Digital transformation means a lot of things to different people. For some people, it might mean transforming a paper-based process into, maybe an online solution. You get the picture. But I really would like you to help us understand this better now. So in your own view, what really is digital transformation, Jay?
It's so interesting, Kazim. In the past 5-10 years, the rate of transformation of technology has changed so quickly that we're almost in this period of micro ages. We had the age of industry and the Renaissance and all of that. And here we are in something we're calling the digital transformation age. And so what it means to me, and this is the funny part, is it means something slightly different to everybody because we're in it. So the definition is rapidly changing. But what it means to me is it's this focus on changing traditionally paper and manual processes to automated technological processes. Technology has become a massive part of our lives, and I think starting with children of the late 70s, early 80s, it became what we were trained on. We were children with remote controls instead of having to get up and go push buttons or turn knobs on the TV. We were children with the internet as a means to do things. Although we were in this weird point where some teachers let us use the internet for research, and some made us use the Encyclopedia Britannica that was on our counter, on our library shelves. So digital transformation now is that stage where today's children don't even know non-technical ways of doing things. Reminding my daughter to get a pencil and practice her handwriting is a novel concept. She's 8 years old, and this idea of what do I need handwriting for? I've got a keyboard on everything I touch. That's where we are. For businesses, digital transformation is trying to shift everybody into that mindset, giving people technology that meets what they do on Facebook or Twitter in the office, and making sure that the processes that they use to do their job utilize that technology and automate as much as possible. That's what I would call digital transformation, at least today. We'll see what it looks like tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Jay. So now let's get to our topic of the day now, Microsoft 365 adoption, right? So we know everybody knows Microsoft 365 has been generating a lot of buzz. A lot of the organization now have embraced Microsoft 365, and the market share just continues to grow.
Yeah.
But from your knowledge, yes, from your knowledge of those products now, let's start with which of those products is the most widely used, and why do you think that is? I believe everybody knows Microsoft 365, so let's just
Yeah.
delve into it now. Yes, so which of the Microsoft 365 apps, or should I call it product line now, is the most widely used, and why do you think?
Well, I think the public answer to that question is probably Microsoft Teams. It's what we're using for this meeting. It's what competes with Zoom and Blue Jeans and all of the many video conferencing technologies out there. And it's
Yes.
also the face to tools like SharePoint and Planner, where all of those capabilities are being brought into the Teams interface. But I think the answer might be, and I'd have to try and dig some stats up on this one, but I think the answer might be SharePoint instead. And it's funny because people don't think of SharePoint as a tool they're using most often. But if you think about it, when you go into Teams and you share a file, that file is in SharePoint. When you work on automation with Power Automate, anything you're touching from from a file standpoint, again in SharePoint. Um, when you're working on the back end of permissions, you're affecting SharePoint from Teams. You're changing the Teams permissions, it's changing the group permissions, it's changing the SharePoint permissions. When you're sending files internally, those files are going to SharePoint. And OneDrive, like everyone says, OneDrive is this great app. I'm like, did you know OneDrive is just SharePoint with another name? So I still think SharePoint is king. It just has a new face called Microsoft Teams with better capabilities.
Oh, okay. So my next question now is, I think you partly answered it, but let's see if you can throw more light on it now. I want you to share what you think is the motivating factor now behind this increase in the adoption of Microsoft 365.
Yeah. Microsoft was doing a good job getting their products out there before the beginning of 2020. But when COVID hit and across the globe, we saw work from home edicts on the knowledge workers. We saw an incredible increase of usage of the Microsoft platform. I think one of the reasons Microsoft 365 took off as well as it did was because it had integration across all of its tool sets. It wasn't just an email platform or just a file sharing platform. There's Google Mail or Apple Mail, and there's Box. So there's all these technologies out there with one-offs or two parts of the puzzle. But Microsoft had already started to see an increase in the use of Teams as a video platform, as a meetings platform. They had already built the infrastructure to bring all of its tools together. And so, when you think about it, they were in a good place when the pandemic hit to be able to support organizations who didn't have extra money to buy new technologies, and just be able to say, hey, with that license that you have for SharePoint and email, you also get this thing called Microsoft Teams that you've been putting off. And they were able to showcase their strong security and strong integration to be able to really be able to put themselves out there as the platform to be able to solve a business's needs, not the email tool or the file sharing tool or the meetings tool, but the full platform. And I think there was hesitation at first because they weren't as well known. Teams, at least, wasn't as well known as something like Zoom. But as people started to see its scalability and its integration, I think it really took off.
Yeah, thank you for that response. So my next question now is this, with all the players in the business app space, the cloud space, you've just mentioned Zoom now. When we're talking meetings way before now, it used to be Zoom. And now, we have Microsoft Teams now in the forefront. Would you say that Microsoft already won the cloud war now? What's your thought?
Oh,
What's your thought on that?
I think we're a long way from saying that there's a winner and a loser, but I definitely think that if we were to declare the war over today, no
Yes.
innovation, no changes, then yes, I think Microsoft would be in a position to claim championship. But but I think we're going to continue to see incredible innovation and changes to the industry. Again, being in the digital transformation age, to bring it back to that first term, we have to continue to see change because there are still a mix of manual and paper-based solutions that people do. So, just last week they announced Microsoft Viva, a new employee experience platform. That's not even employee experience platform didn't exist as a term before this came out. So, did they win? Meh. Are they winning? Yeah, I'd say they are.
Okay, okay. Let's talk about some of these recent deployment. I mean, developments now that we've seen with Microsoft 365. Come bundled with the Microsoft 365 now. Things like the Power Platform suite of products, Power BI. Talk about AI on Azure and so on. So what game-changing innovation can we expect in the years to come? JD, do you have any insight to that?
It's all in my head, right? I don't have anything, I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't have access to the internal roadmaps. But
Yeah.
what I see Microsoft doing, and really the industry as a whole, is they have stopped developing technology and they are developing business solutions. So
Okay.
what I see is the continued expansion of tools like SharePoint to meet business problems. Microsoft Lists was a prime example. Everyone got so excited about lists coming out. All lists was a fancy UI on top of an existing technology in SharePoint. Now, I'm not saying there's not innovation there, but the fact that the innovation is focused on solving a business problem instead of just giving new technology is a big deal. And I think that's where we're headed. Viva is a perfect example of where Microsoft is starting to focus everything towards the user. They call the Power Platform the development platform for the citizen developer. That's just another fancy name for saying it's a mission or business focused tool. It's designed to let the person who needs to do the job rather than reliance on a very small, very under budgeted IT department.
Okay. Okay. So is there a statistics you want to walk us through quickly? That gives us an insight into where Microsoft 365 is now and where Microsoft 365 is headed.
Oh man, I am not. I think what I can say, in again just my opinion of what I've seen, right, my gut feeling,
Okay.
is that where Microsoft is right now is focused on solving business problems rather than focused on releasing technology. So all of their stats on meeting minutes, active users, things like that, they showcase success of the technology. But if you look at the use cases that they're putting out, Heathrow Airport's Citizen Development Program, not just one person who got an MVP for solving a couple of problems by developing a Power Platform solution, but they've developed a whole program at Heathrow Airport to empower the frontline worker instead of just worrying about how do we manage data in a knowledge base. Things like that are what I would look at. So if you want to see where Microsoft is going, go look at the case studies on their website. Go search for Microsoft 365 case studies and look at the showcases they're putting out of companies who have taken advantage of the technology to solve problems rather than just uploaded a million files into SharePoint.
Okay. Okay. So, what would your advice be before the wrap-up questions now for a new organization just starting out now? They like to worry about things like cost. So when you tell them about embracing the cloud, they want to really be sure. So if we're embracing the cloud, it's something we need to continue. On a continuous basis, we need to make this payment. So what would your advice be? Should they still continue to keep to on-premises, or is it really wise for for a startup business to really have a leg in the cloud? Yes.
So most of my customers, I work for AvePoint Public Sector, so most of my customers are U.S. government, right? And you can imagine that somebody like U.S. government customers would want to keep something on premises, whether it's a particular type of data or it is a particular workflow that they don't want someone to be able to gain access to. So I see it all the time, and I have this conversation a lot. My initial instinct is this. If you're going to keep something on premises, you need to have a real conversation with yourself about how much you are spending on security and on research and development of security versus how much the cloud providers, not just Microsoft, but how much the cloud providers as a whole are spending on security. Now, I know that Microsoft and Google and all of the cloud providers have big targets on their back. They are the easy solutions when it comes to nefarious people trying to cause harm to the global economy and the global workforce. But they also spend, generally speaking, more money on securing that information and have a bigger risk if they fail than any individual company, at least anyone outside of the top 50. The top 50 global companies. So my first conversation is this. Think about security. You say it is more secure to have your content on premises than in the cloud. So how much are you spending on security? How often are you ensuring your on-premises content is up to date and secure? What are you doing to confirm all of that? Because I would bet most places, not all, but most places can't compete with a vendor like Microsoft on that. Yeah. The other thing I would say is, if you're going to keep your content on premises, what are you doing to make sure your technology continues to become more modern and innovative to solve business solutions? If you think back to just SharePoint as an example, the on-prem version of SharePoint has a 3-year release cycle. The cloud version of SharePoint has a month or 2-month release cycle on new technologies and new capabilities. So if you are keeping things on premises, you have to realize that you will not have the latest and greatest tool to solve your business need. Now, that may be okay. And in some workloads, I absolutely understand where it is. But if you're going to stay on premises, you have to consider some form of a hybrid solution. Whether it's integrated or not, you have to consider, okay, these things I consider safe to go in the cloud. I'm willing to put them there, but we got to keep this little small bit here and recognize that capabilities will be different in those places. The other conversation I'm seeing more than on-prem versus cloud, even in the government space, is multi-cloud. I'm seeing more people interested in having something in AWS and something in Azure, and being willing to split that, but then come off premises. That is another interesting conversation, and it really comes down to, what do the clouds offer you in order to make sure you are providing the right capability, note I didn't say technology, but capability, to your mission workers or your business workers. So that's really, those are the conversations I have. When you're trying to figure this out, you have to balance the safety and security of your data, because that is the modern currency, right? Versus capability to get my job done. So that's really what you're trying to do. So you have to stack all of the pros and cons in each place and figure out where it works for you. But for me, my gut says that most places would benefit from a, if not complete cloud use, majority cloud use. because it really does change how you work. It changes how easy it is to get to your data. It changes the amount of technology and tools and capabilities you have to accomplish your mission. And it lets your workforce really be flexible in how they do their job to be successful.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the response. So let's try to wrap things up now. Still with a new organization trying to embrace Microsoft 365 now. Are there formulas or are there policies that they can put in place to help them or to help their users now with Microsoft 365 adoption?
Yeah. Every consultant in the
just to ensure that the adoption of Microsoft 365 is as seamless as it can be.
Yeah. It's interesting. You can hear me okay? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. My video froze, so I wanted to make sure I was still coming through. Okay.
Fine.
Every consultant in the world has a special formula for how to build adoption. So I'm going to break it down to the least technical parts. You need to communicate. You have to communicate the schedule of when you're going to provide new capabilities to your people. You have to communicate the capabilities and what they can and cannot do. You have to communicate the value that people are going to get with those capabilities, because you are asking people to change what they do, and many people don't like change. So that's my number one key, is making sure you over communicate with your people. What's coming, when is it coming, why is it coming, and what's in it for them. The WIFM policy, what's in it for me, WIIFM, if I got that correctly. That is, if I'm doing a training with an organization, I spend more time on helping them answer that question than I do on how do you use the Power Platform. Because helping people understand what's in it for them, how does this improve their ability to do what they're doing, is the number one thing. The next thing I would say is you have to remember you can't please everybody. So if your goal is, I'm not going to release something until it's good for everyone, then you're never going to release something.
Yeah.
So find your early technology adopters, help them see value, help them be successful, and then all of a sudden you have a pile of successful use cases to show off to the people who are non-believers, as they say. You can pull the Charlie the Unicorns over and say, look at all these successful things happening over here. And eventually they will start to turn. They'll either turn because they see that they had their backs up and their walls up to protect them, but that they were wrong, or they'll turn because they realize that if they don't, they're going to get left behind.
Yeah, exactly.
And to the next piece I would say is build a champions program. And I already gave you the first clue on building a champions program, which is identifying your early adopters, your people willing to learn. But the champions program is such a cool way to make technology successful, because it gives you people willing to fail, willing to learn and try new things, and they will be the most hardy proponents of what you're doing, but they'll also be the biggest opponents to what you're doing in a very constructive way. When you go to your champions program and say, look at this cool thing we're going to roll out, you'll know within a couple of weeks if it's actually as cool as you think it is. And you'll know in a very helpful way, because they want to be successful. So that champions program. So what did I say? Communicate. I said, don't try to please everybody, and build that champions program up. If you've done those three things, then literally, in my opinion, doing nothing else for adoption, you will be more successful than most adoption programs. There's a ton of other things you can do. Training, realizing training isn't just webinars, building help into the interface, all sorts of things like that. but communication, trying to recognizing you're not going to please everyone, and building that champions program, I think are probably the easiest things you can do, and probably the most efficient things you can do.
Okay. Thank you so much. So this is where we're going to be wrapping up the show today. So thank you so much, Jay, for spending time with us today on the Tech Talk Show. But let me leave you now with the last words. Any last words from you? Maybe something we've missed out on. You want to just say something. Pass a message across to people that will be rewatching this now at a later time.
Yeah, so I think the one other thing that we didn't talk about, not technology related. If you're in the Microsoft 365 space, and I say this one with 20 years of time in this space.
Yes.
Find the local community. Find your user groups and your SharePoint Saturdays or your M365 Fridays or Saturdays. Find your community, because the Microsoft technology community is the strongest technology community I have ever seen. When I lived in Dallas in the early 2000s, I attended .NET user groups. Now I'm in DC. I run a Microsoft 365 and Azure user group. I've been to and spoken at a number of conferences, and the desire to share in this community is one I've never seen before. So it's really cool, and I think that's my parting gift, so to speak. Is if you're listening to Tech Talk to learn, that means you know who Kazim is. That means you already know that there's a community member near you that wants to share information. So dig into that community. Go to SharePointEvents.org, and find other places to learn. Microsoft platform is going to change very rapidly for the foreseeable future. And being plugged into that community is a good way to find out what's happening, when is it happening, and why.
So a very big thank you to you again, Jay, for sharing your knowledge. So I bet people, even myself, have been able to pick up one or two things from your explanation that you've given today on the show. So guys, remember you can rewatch this on YouTube and across the social media platforms. So it's the Tech Talk Wednesday across all the social media platforms now, and you can watch the previous episodes as well on YouTube. So let's continue to keep safe now, and let's do this again another time. So from myself and Jay, it's a bye-bye.
Thank you, Kazim.
Yeah.